Welcome back, everybody, to Fly the Coop. We're so excited to have you here today. You've got some amazing stories that you're going to be listening to with Danielle and Ryan, married couple, family, entrepreneurs, business owners, equestrian therapist, everybody. It's fascinating. So we're going to delve right in because we just met each other in the last couple of months.
Yes.
You were a referral from one of your clients.
No, actually a friend. Our friends to the horse world.
Yeah, in the horse world. And you were you are ready to combine your home life, your home, and your work. And doing that has not been easy to do. Finding property has not been easy to do. So tell everybody about what you do and what you've been looking for and how we did it.
Okay. So what I do, I've been doing, I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I've been doing that I finished licensure in 2015, but before that, I'd been doing therapy since 2001. Yeah. So 2020 came along. Mm-hmm. I was burnt out.
Super
exhausted.
burnt out.
Yeah. Had nothing left to give. So I'd been bringing my golden retriever to the office.
Oh, cool.
And I realized what a huge impact she had on all of my clients, but my coworkers and other people's clients in the waiting room. And so I knew I had to do something like that.
Animal related.
Yep. So I worked with someone for a year. I think it was in 2018. I did a year of equine assisted therapy with another therapist, but it just wasn't the right fit.
Horses, everybody.
Yeah.
Equine. You have a horse background.
Yeah.
You love them.
I know. And I always forget these terms that are just normal to me.
A lot of people don't know that. You know that?
Yeah.
They don't. Mm-hmm. It's shocking.
Yeah.
I always say that I married a Wisconsin girl, but you can't take the Wisconsin out of the Wisconsin girl.
No.
And she's
you can't take the cheese out of the girl,
I know.
but you can take the girl out of the cheese.
And, well, you are cheesy sometimes, aren't you?
I'm wearing my Minnesota Nice shirt today too.
Well, we need to leap back a little bit and intro Chris because you guys met in college, right?
No.
Ryan
and I actually met
on eHarmony.
Yeah.
Oh, did you really?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, how cool. To the dating world, it's a real thing.
It is.
Steve and I met on Bumble. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, we were in one of their commercials. They flew us out to Hollywood. And
Really?
Gave us the whole Hollywood treatment. And
wow. Well, there's a whole other story right there.
There is an entirely different story. But I married a girl who grew up riding horses, and she had to give up horses once she went off to college. And she tried every hobby while we were together. We've been married, we're coming up on close to 20 years now.
Wow.
And she eventually realized that she had a hole in her heart, and it was horse-shaped. And she started
he's a marketing genius.
She started doing riding lessons again. And all of a sudden she'd come home. You normally would be burnt out from work, and she'd come home after getting to go out to the barn, and she'd have this energy about her again. And she's like, this is my hobby. It's always been my hobby. I've tried to deny it. And so it was, as Danielle was saying, in 2020.
I actually apologized a lot because I know how much it costs.
Mm-hmm. It's expensive to have horses.
Sorry, I've tried every other hobby I can possibly think of, and none of them will work. It has to be horses.
Mm-hmm. Because therapy is stressful.
It is, and it's hard to say that, right? Because you don't want to take up the space for clients who need that space. Mm-hmm. And so, as a group, as a community of people, therapists don't talk about how hard their job is.
Right. Because
we don't want people to not make it hard.
Right.
We want them.
Well, you don't want that message to be how they look at themselves.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's where it's important, to set up an environment that works for you as a therapist, that works for your clients. But we have to do our own work, and we have to do all of our own self-care.
Mm-hmm. So true.
And if you haven't even done your own therapy, then you really can't
help other people.
Mm-hmm. So when I was hitting this insane block, I was like, okay, I know exactly what this is. I just have to practice what I preach.
Right. Right.
So I did. And so through a lot of conversations and a lot of dreaming and a lot of fear, I jumped, and I found a barn owner who was willing to host me and let me try it.
Right.
And
so explain to everybody what that looks like, because your patients are now coming out of an office environment and you're now exposing them into an outdoor, more organic environment, and you're teaching them how to work with horses while doing therapy at the same time.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
So so that's the nice thing about it is you're used to coming into a parking lot and walking into an office building and walking down a hallway and finding another office and going into another office and then sitting in someone's fake living room and talking.
Right.
And it's all very enclosed and clinical.
Yeah.
So
clinical is a good word.
Yeah. Which is good sometimes.
Right.
And it's right for many people. But the people that see me, it doesn't fit anymore. So,
well, there's a lot of different ways to carve that up, right? There's lots of people to help. And so what you've done and what we're going to talk about today to the viewer is how do you carve out a career and a passion that also fills your soul at the same time?
Exactly.
Understanding there's a client base specifically for that. So it's almost like it's kind of like how we found your property. We're really clear on the avatar. And we're super clear on who we're messaging to, and you go all in on just that. And I think that's a really critical learning lesson for everybody right now in a changing world. So we'll leap back again.
And that's literally what I did. I was like, okay, I have no lease on any office. Like I have a barn and an arena and pastures.
Yeah, that's awesome.
That's it. And in the winter,
bring a coat.
Bring a coat, bring your toe warmers, and if you need it, we have a space heater.
That's awesome. That's not how it's going to be, though, because we're going to jump in a little bit to what we've done. Yeah.
So people come, and I meet them at the front door of the barn, and I give them a tour, show them where the bathroom is. We have an indoor bathroom.
Yep.
And I have pictures of the horses, and I say, well, here's your options. Like, take a look at these, and let's go pick out a horse.
Yeah. That's great.
So the whole time, like this whole summer has been spent outside. And this fall, I mean, these past few weeks have been gorgeous.
Beautiful.
So I'm outside all the time, even doing paperwork. Like yesterday I had like a 3-hour break and I was just out there on my laptop in a lawn chair, the breeze blowing by. And I got to my 7th client of the day and I was like, let's
go.
Which is not how it was.
I used to cap out at 5 and 5 was too much.
I could tell based off of Danielle's energy level, like, ooh, this was like a 5-day client day or even like a 3-day client day. I mean, she didn't tell me about her work because of all the privacy and like there's just so much that she couldn't share.
Right.
Even like to the outside world, but even to me. But I think this whole journey got kicked off when I realized that the way that she talks about her career, sitting in that little tiny office, was not her dream.
Right.
It was her prison.
Right.
And she was only happy when she was out doing these things and being out. And so it was her own initiative. Like, I'm going to go take this training. There's people that use horses. I'm like, that sounds cool.
That's a lot of money for that training.
And then
it was.
and then she showed me the way. Like we worked it through, and it's like, okay, it turns out your private practice, the horses pay for themselves,
right? And
they help other people. Yeah. Okay, I'm sold. And then this whole process was her getting me on board of saying, all right, well, we need to do a business plan, and we need to do all these other things. And so I'm the spreadsheet nerd, and on day number 1, I'm like, I don't know. Week number 1, I think I was almost more excited at times. Like, can you believe that you could do this? And then we could have this many horses. And
I was like, yeah, I've been doing it for 2 years.
Yeah, I know. I'm like, all right, I'm playing catch up. So, and believe it or not, like she's been doing so well at this.
It just blew up. Like that's what's so cool about it. You have such a deep passion for both therapy and the equestrian, the horse world. And you paired the two and it's on fire. It's crazy, you guys. Now, what's cool about your story, and we want to leap back to you, Ryan, is as a partnership, as a married couple, I've been fascinated watching this because you've partnered so well with such different personalities, really, right? So tell everybody what you do, Ryan, because you are like a math genius and a spreadsheet guru.
You wouldn't have said that when he was in high school. So those of you who hate math in high school, it does get easier.
Well, so I've been in sales, marketing, and product development for 20 years. And helping tell stories in a way that people can connect, whether it's the pain that people need and why do you need to buy a product, or, I just like storytelling.
Yeah.
Right. And ADHD is my superpower. So I'm interested in lots of different things. So I can get excited just about anything. But I can especially get excited about when it has to do with my wife and the things that she's passionate about.
Right.
And, getting on board for this was like an opportunity to tell a story that's really near and dear to me. Mm-hmm. And her success, the more successful she's been, the less I get to see her. And so I'm really selfish, Cari Ann. This is a very selfish decision for me, is that if we can work, because I work from home.
Right.
I work for an international company. I can work anytime I want.
Which is the beauty of the new world, right? Is so many of us are.
And I've been doing that for about 5 years now, is just working from home. And now I have the opportunity to see one of my favorite people in the world. The more successful she is, right? Like her success now enables us to work from the same place, which is really exciting. So, it's completely selfish from my end, is that I actually want to see her and eliminate that long drive that's going back and forth.
Right.
And
and what's cool about the pairing of all of this, it was a natural, organic solution for sure, because you love horses. Yep. You love having them around you all the time. You love riding at the end of your day. You love the idea of being able to incorporate your home life and your children as part of the work you do. They're very involved with the horse component of it. So finding the search, how we met, is seeking out a home on land with an equestrian component. So an arena, a barn, all the things that you need to house horses.
Well, and I think the most challenging part was it had to have an indoor arena.
Right.
Because in the winter, I want my clients to be comfortable. Being outside isn't an option because no one can relax and get into their stuff when they're freezing outside.
Right.
And I think that was a kicker was, how do we find an indoor arena that's not going to fall down around us?
With pre-existing infrastructure.
Right.
Because we needed to be able to move in and be running within 90 days.
Right. And we're going to deep dive into the equestrian part of it. But what I love about the two of you is even though the house was important, it wasn't the top priority. The equestrian component was. However, on the last round, and we looked at many and did a lot of target marketing, and we'll talk about that. And there's a reason for it, and we're going to talk about that because it's a nugget for everybody if you're looking for something specific. The house and the compilation of bringing your children in and your work, Ryan, because you work from home, finding that right combination so it served everybody. And we did solve for that. Like, we've got an awesome office. We've got a great setup for the kids. Like, this will be great synergy for the family for sure.
That was the other selfish thing. I've been working out of a corner of our living room, and we have a bonus space above our garage, and it's the fun room. Yeah. It's where the TV is, the bar, the tables, the everything. And so during the summers, it's like, kids, I'm sorry, you can't be in the fun room. Dad's in here in the working room. So it's the boring room. So get out.
It's the boring room.
And so the chance to have a space where the fun room is not my office, and I have a separate place, that was also, something that I was hoping for.
Right.
Again, that search process was a constant sliding scale of what's most important and what's a nice to have, what's a want. And,
I'm trying to remember, when we were talking about this, and I was trying to convince you without putting too much pressure on, because I know you. And you had said, okay. As long as it's 30 minutes from my friends and I have high-speed internet, then I can do it.
Yeah.
We got the 30 minutes.
Yeah.
We got moderate speed internet.
Moderate.
Hopefully
we'll be able to improve that. Yeah.
Oh, that's funny. The navigation of finding this property, everybody, is the nugget I want to share. First of all, post-COVID lifestyle, this is a real thing. And people, because we're so low in inventory, not only in our state and our city, but nationwide, finding real estate's really difficult, right?
Oh my gosh.
So hard.
So
interesting market when it comes to selling real estate right now in terms of pricing strategy and condition, and then finding the right fit.
And everything that was on the market, either it's on the market and still on the market for reasons, and it doesn't matter. It's just reasons. Could be people, could be something that you don't know until you actually see the property.
Right.
Or it's gone.
Yeah,
right?
I know.
It's just on the market and off the market. So take your pick. And so if it's been on the market for a while, you start asking, well, why? And so, I mean, this is what made this search so infuriating was that at this point in time, with this point in the market, it's just so
well, and this is
hard.
A unique search. So those of you out there looking for something that's not necessarily a common search, what we did is this. I went to Ryan and Danielle, and I said, can you please write a letter? And the letter is about your story. And the letter included pictures and images, and we were very targeted about who we sent it out to and how we presented what the need was. And in that, everyone, we had 150 responses by text, email, and phone call. I'd say 75% of those were on the market and they were pitching their deal. But the other 25% were not. And of that, we had I'll call it a 1%er, right? Yeah. So this last call we just received, he got the letter and the email, and they were this is a huge thing because empty nesters and that whole age group and transition's a real thing out there, and they're not sure what they're going to do. But they were so inspired by Danielle's letter, they called us. And it ended up, we were very clear about what we wanted, the house we wanted. Like we had her letter, your letter together, but then this is the criteria. These are all the things I'm looking for.
Yep.
That's the secret sauce to finding what you're looking for sure.
And I think the process of getting clear was really interesting too. Because that letter, you got like the end of it. And just that internal process of like, what do I need?
Yeah, you took time.
And like some people, I think too big. Like these are all the things I want. And I discovered I was actually thinking too small. And part of that is just kind of how I grew up, right? It was like, I'm just used to making do and like bootstrap everything I've been doing. And so it was really like, okay, dream bigger and now define it. That was a lot more work than I expected.
Well, it's breaking through a glass ceiling because we all have that, right? It's those limitations we put around us, even if subconsciously, and really going for, because you're never leaving this property. You're going to be there forever.
With old hips and knees.
Yeah. So in defining what that looked like, we finally found it and we were able to navigate it really quickly.
Yeah.
And I think that being specific, I mean, that's a marketing adage too, right? Be specific, right?
Be specific.
You have to, right?
Yeah.
Because when we actually met the owners, they're describing our property, right? And because
That's
it was
specific
enough,
right?
And it came, oh, we just want a nice place with some space.
You can't be vague,
right? So that exercise that we went through together, and then Danielle no, we have to have X, Y, and Z. It was a really valuable exercise too, because it also helped us in our discussion of right-sizing the price and knowing what type of things that we would need to have from day one, and understanding how expensive it is to build something that's not already there.
Being very well aware of the infrastructure needs out there. And that's whether you're just buying a regular home or you're buying something that has infrastructure as part of, right? And we learned a lot because of the people that we met.
Yeah, it was a really educational search process.
Learned a lot.
And seeing all the different places helped me even clarify, like, ooh, I can budge on that, but I can't budge on that. And like, where is that price point and what do you get for it?
Right.
And then how do you shift your business model to fit? So it's like, if we find something bigger, okay, that'll work for us personally, but that means business has to shift or change or get bigger.
Which is so cool because of all of the couples I've met who've combined post-COVID, their home and their businesses, you have been and part of it's the cost, right? At the equestrian horse world, it's just so expensive. So there is that awareness, but you really coupled this with a lot of clarity around the cost to do the work. The spreadsheets have been manipulated and changed by every single property very intentfully, like very clear. So leaping back into this work that you do, I think it's fascinating, the work. And I think a lot of people would be really interested in understanding what you're doing because the growth model has been incredible.
Yeah.
So explain it to everybody. It's cool.
That is such a big question. Explain it.
Yeah, it is.
Where to start? You're good at tell me where to start.
I was going to say the number one questions are, so do you ride horses?
Yeah. Okay. So I'll give you like a typical day, a typical session. So we'll say, let's do a teenager because they're the fun ones. Yeah. So you drive up, your parents park, kids come and find me. Parents sometimes, like they're welcome to walk the property. We've got trails where they can sit, whatever. And then the kid and I choose a horse. Sometimes they've already established a horse they're working with. And sometimes they're choosing that horse. We go out to the pasture together and we get their horse and it's already begun, right? We're doing a check-in on the way to the field. We're being aware of what's happening in the space around us. We're noticing how the horses are responding to us being in the field. And then we're checking in with ourselves. Like, okay, like this horse I want to get, and she saw me coming and she took off the other way. Like, what does that say about how I am in this space? How do I feel about that response? And so much is already going on, right? And then we just work our way through it as quickly or as slowly as we need to. We get our horse, then they have more choices to make. And this is what I love about it is it doesn't matter what age or what level of development, whether it's someone that's highly special needs and low functioning or a high-end business person.
Right.
They get to make all these choices. So do you want to brush the horse today or do we want to move into the arena and start working with the horse? And again, every day it's different. When I start asking them to move with the horse, that's where things get really interesting because everyone kind of wants to grab onto that horse and make it move. Because we are so controlled, right? And that is the worst thing you can possibly do with a horse. So it's starting to teach people how to like step back and recognize this space in between. And that's where all the work happens. Because once I become aware of this, you start to set your shoulders back and you start finding your anchor and your grounding in who you are as a human and truly finding your power. And I help them work through all those blocks in between this. I have to make it work too. I've got this.
So whether it's anxiety, depression, trauma, like all of these things require your ability to like self-diagnose where you are. It's how you hold yourself in a space. And the horses, you keep saying horses don't lie.
They don't. And I think, and that's the thing that I also really shifted in my own practice is, I put a diagnosis down because I have to for billing insurance.
Right.
And I know the history. It's just like everything else, but that doesn't come into the space because it doesn't matter. Like, I don't care what the label is.
Right.
Let's just get in here with this horse and work through our, can I swear on this?
Yeah.
Work through our shit.
Yeah. We got to work through the shit.
What is it? Let's work through it. And so this quick example, this one kid, I was teaching this idea of bullies and pushing around. And I noticed just this kind of closed in, weak body way of going. And so we worked with the horse. And I was like, I want you to get that horse to move away from you. And he tried everything and nothing worked. Like, we're talking like, here's some grass. Like, come on, horsey. Like, and as I started shifting that power of like taking a deep breath, shoulders back and down, and I started teaching this kid how to look at the horse, give it a look, you shift your body, and the horse backs up. And that shift right there from he was almost there, he gets close to the horse, And the horse is like, nope, you don't got it. Like,
right.
It won't work until you've got it.
It's a built-in awareness of confidence.
Yeah. And so it's so hard to describe. And I say this to my clients all the time. I have a really hard time using words to describe this. So I'm like, let me show you. And then you start trying and we'll talk through it. So you're better at the talking and describing than I am. And I think that's why, because horses don't lie. So I can't say it, I have to do it. Because if I'm doing it, the horse will do it.
Right.
And then the client has a model for, oh, that's what it looks like. And then they can emulate it.
Yeah.
And then they get the feeling in their body for it. And it's like, oh, like the connection is made.
So think about therapy as, do you want to learn how to be, work on your mental health, like sitting in a classroom, right? When you're in the office, the best you can really do is like talk about it and maybe practice it, but with a therapist. And, we have our own biases on like whether we let them get away in their role play or whatever it is.
Right.
But this is a diagnostic tool that is forcing you to not just talk about the skill that you want to work on. You're doing it. And Danielle says it's like building muscle memory. So you are getting an immediate feedback mechanism because these animals are so in tune. And we've all seen and heard stories of dogs and how they can help people deal and recover from this stuff because they're so in tune in almost a sixth sense.
Right.
Horses are the same way. They're just bigger, stronger. And we all know that they spook, they have trauma, they have anxiety. And so just like Danielle has these stories of like, oh, it was great. This kid came in and they hear the stories of these different horses, their pictures on the wall. And like,
right.
They sound like me. And so they work with these horses that also might have trauma or might
have gone through trauma. They don't actually hold on to trauma. That's part of, in order to be in the therapy program, the horses have to do their own work too.
Okay.
So if they've been through a traumatic situation, I have a whole process of knowing like this horse has worked through all of its issues and it's safe. I can trust this horse. Yeah.
We own some really weird stuff for like desensitizing and like, oh, what's this kiddie pool for? Is that for the kids? No, that's actually for the horses to like walk across.
Can I have all your empty water bottles to put in the pool? See if I can scare
it's crazy, but yeah, there's a whole component of this that is also helping get the horses ready to be active in a therapy herd.
Right.
And
it's not unlike training really anything. Training a dog,
right?
A special needs dog.
Yeah. And one of the frameworks I use for equine assisted therapy comes from natural horsemanship. And there is a therapeutic model called natural lifesmanship. They should have had a marketing team, I think, for that name. It's a hard mouthful. And so I use components of their model because it's about working through taking that deep breath, getting grounded, and instead of just reacting, thinking and responding. And so a horse as a prey animal reacts for survival. And a lot of people do the same thing. So the methods that we use to prepare the horse to respond and think are a lot of ways similar to what we do with humans.
Right.
And when we can simplify it like that, our brain can connect easier. Right. We can just hit that lower function, like that base level of our brain.
The lizard brain, I like to call it.
Yeah. And it's just something that's really beautiful because like horses that have abuse history, they recognize and connect with people that have abuse history.
Okay.
At least in this space, like in my experience, in my therapy practice, those are some of the coolest connections that I see because there's something that's seen between them and there's work that happens that even a therapist who's gone through that can't do.
Right.
It's something that I really know that horse is going to do something for that person that nobody else can do.
Right. Right. Fascinating. It really is fascinating.
What's neat from a business perspective too, and this is just from the outsider looking in, is You'll have clients come in. So there's 3 examples. From a business case perspective on how it appeals to different audiences and different segments. The first one is you'll have people saying, can I ride a horse? And Danielle will be like, oh, well, you could get a 4-pack of lessons and take actual riding lessons from someone who does that. That's separate from here. But then there's also people who are taking lessons go, you mean I could come here and get therapy? So that's one. It's a neat little flywheel as part of this business.
Right.
But
that's a great word for it.
The 2 other things though are the audiences. Kids are notoriously bad at not wanting to go to therapy. And parents give feedback saying, my kid is like, come on, we got to go. It's time to go to therapy. So this is helping kids, adolescents and teenagers who are traditionally like
fighting it.
They love going to therapy. It's something they look forward to. So I don't want to say it's making it fun. It's just getting them out of...
It's making it real.
Yeah.
Kids have a really good bullshit detector. And so do horses.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you put them together.
It's interesting.
And it's like, here it is. And honestly, and that's where like even swearing, like if my kid swears in a session, then I know, okay, then that's something we're going to do. And so we do.
Yeah.
And because teenagers, young adolescents, like they don't have time for any of just the surface level stuff anymore. They're done with it.
Right.
And so they show up and the horses and I are there to meet them exactly where they're at. And they're seen and they're heard and they're respected for exactly who they are.
That's what they need.
Yeah. And so
nobody's giving that to them right now.
Exactly. And a lot of the parents are like, I don't know, like my kid won't go to therapy, but they said they might go see a horse. I'm like, okay, well, that's where we'll start. And so I have several teens right now who they came and I was like, they were like, you're a therapist. I'm like, let's go play with horses. And as we play with horses, by the end of that, 20-minute, just get to know you intro. Do you think you'll like this? They're like, so can we talk about stuff now?
Yeah. There's something that happens, right? Like the guard comes down.
Yeah. The third group is couples for couples therapy. I remember you telling me the first time, like, you put 2 people who are having a tough time working together and communicating and connecting and put them in an arena. And their job is to work together to get this horse to do something. And it goes exactly like you would imagine it would. Right. But it opens the door to a conversation.
Right.
And it's them working through something new. They probably have never interacted with an animal like this in the same way. So it's no one person's like, well, I'm the one who knows how to do this. And, oh, you don't know. And so it's just interesting to hear your perspectives. Now, I never get the full stories because, ethics and privacy, but it's fun to hear these little tidbits. And she's like, oh, I had my first session and it went exactly like you'd imagine. But
because I don't do many couples. Some people love couples. They're just not my favorite.
Right.
So I'd actually stopped doing any like in-office sit-down couple work. And I had this couple ask and I was like, let's see. Let's try this. And it was fantastic. Like I just made the space and sent them into it and asked them to complete an activity. And then they did the activity or attempted to. And then I joined them in the round pen and we just reflected on what they noticed. And they did the work. And,
very
it's
cool.
Just really cool. Yeah.
It's very cool. So what I do find fascinating, and I think people should hear about the expansion in like the growth model of this, how fast it's caught on and how fast it's grown. Like you can't keep up right now. Yeah,
no, I'm working over time. Like I have a limit that I typically set and I'm well above that right now. So part of that is because the move I've made has worked so well for me, I have the energy to do that, which is good. And now I'm trying to find more therapists and get them trained in. And then equine specialists are fairly easy to find in general. It's getting the therapists and the equine specialists to know how to work together and hold that space together.
You might want to define that this is a partnership. There's 2 people involved. In one session.
Right. Thank you for saying that. So you have like the mental health professional who has all that licensing and all this stuff checked off. And they know a lot about mental health, but they may not know a lot about horses. And that's not safe to send people into a situation like that. So you need someone who's an expert on horses, especially the horses you're working with. And so they're called the equine specialist. And that equine specialist needs to also understand the therapy space and the ethics involved in keeping your own stuff out of that space, holding confidence, and being knowing when to talk and when not to talk. And I think that's been the challenging thing. And there's two different goals that happen. The mental health provider is always thinking about the client and those mental health goals. And the equine specialist has to shift from looking at horsemanship goals and what's the right way to do it as a horseman. And they have to release that and know, like, that's not the point. The point is these mental health goals. And that's where there's a lot of training, and I'm working on a training model to teach how to put that process at the forefront.
So my assumption is, obviously, therapists, there's a lot of education involved. So you've got this group of therapists that are catching on to what's going on with this equine component, teaching the equine components, kind of like riding a horse, right? Learning how to ride a horse. The degree comes in, and the training facility or training model you're trying to look at, what they're trying to do is bring in these therapists and then train them on how to work with horses so they can combine their talent with you.
Yeah. So because I've been doing horses my whole life and I've been doing therapy for 20 years. I got to the point where it's easier for me just to do both roles myself. If I'm in a dicey situation, I know I've got a complex client case coming in. I have a person that I pull in to help. I wouldn't say it's ideal, but it's the way it's had to be as I've grown.
Right.
What I'm building is two people, a mental health professional and an equine professional, and they work as a team. Ideally, the big picture is we have these teams that work well together, that we partner with barns around the metro, and we have these little pods of people all around so we can open access to people.
The reality is that the waiting list for mental health services in the state of Minnesota is
huge.
over 10,000.
Yeah, I know.
There's not enough therapists. There's not enough access. And the further you get from the heart of the city, the harder it is to get access.
Right.
And so what Danielle has done is come up with a model that helps a bunch of therapists. And turns out when she did some surveys on some like internal therapy network things, these groups that only therapists can be on.
Right.
Turns out there's a lot of interest in people that, would also like to work from horse.
Right.
And, would like to bring their love of horses or riding or animals or even just being outdoors. And they would like to fight the burnout, just like Danielle, and find a way of bring these two passions together and serve people. And what we proved too is that by having mental health services at an equestrian center, you feed the lesson program and vice versa. It's a very symbiotic relationship,
right? Especially
when you only need a small corner of the center to do your work.
That's brilliant.
But when Danielle started taking insurance contracts, and so now people can use their insurance, we went from 2 to 3 new intakes a month to over 20 requests a month. And it's even higher than that now. It keeps growing. So there's more demand than Danielle has time crazy. That I'm willing to let her work. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. She's already fully loaded, but I want to see her. I want to have dinner, have her join us for dinner.
Yeah.
So this is like a 2-part thing, but we have other therapists that want to do the same thing. So she's working with other credentialed professionals to build a curriculum where they can go through the training. We can do the outreach with other stables. 5 years from now, we'd like to know that there's an equine elevated site, 3-4 different locations on the west of the Twin Cities, south of the Twin Cities.
That's what we've been talking about.
So we can increase access to mental health, where the training and support from a professional peer network is there, and they can learn from one another. But ultimately, it's about helping people. And that's why this is so easy for me as a marketing professional that loves to tell stories. There is nothing about this story where I'm feeling like I'm helping push people to buy more, consume
Right.
more, get this thing you probably don't need. you know?
Right.
This is helping people live their best life,
Right.
and healing. So
So cool.